Good morning and welcome to this video lesson for GCSE English. Okay, this is lesson 9 of the course so far. Okay, so today's video lesson, the aims are for you to understand what makes a good speech, to be able to identify different aspects of a successful report, and to improve the accuracy of your writing. We're going to look at homophones today, and then obviously you're going to get a chance to do some writing as well. Okay, so what we're going to look at first of all are homophones or easily confused words. So a homophone, can't remember, is a word that two words that sound the same but have different spelling and different meaning. Okay, so it's one of those things that in the exam, whether it's paper 1 or paper 2 for your writing, the examiner will be very kind of conscious of. So you need to avoid making these fairly basic, fairly straightforward errors. Okay, so we're just going to look at some of the most common errors, some of the most common confused words, kind of activities for you to try and work out what it should be. So I've got 4 examples to start with. All you need to do, once I show you the examples, is pause the video and just tell me what the mistake is. So I would have gone to the party if you'd asked me. I was really affected by failing my exam. I don't know whether to go tonight. It's too cold in here. Okay, so each of the mistakes is with a homophone. So identify the word and say what it should be. So pause the video for 5 minutes, however long you need, and then come back to it once you've done that activity. Okay, so the first one, I would have gone to the party if you asked me. Very common mistake. I would have gone to the party if you had asked me. Okay, so this one, this mistake, again, is very common. I think it comes through the fact that when you speak it, I would have, sounds like I would of. Okay, so it's not a homophone as such, but it's a very common mistake. So just be aware of that when you're using the shortened form. I was really affected by failing my exam. Okay, so the problem with it, affected. So this one is it's just English being English, I'm afraid. So it's the same meaning really, but affected with an A is the verb form. So you are affected by something, and then the effect with an E would talk about the consequences. So, for example, you'd say the effect of failing my exam was that I didn't get onto the course I wanted. Okay, but then I was affected badly by failing my exam. Okay, I don't know whether to go tonight. I don't know whether. Okay, so again, whether, same pronunciation. Obviously, the first one, W-E-A-T-H-E-R, that's to do with like rain, snow, hot, cold, etc. This one, I don't know whether. It's kind of like I don't know if I should go tonight or not. So it's not that common, but again, just be careful when you're using that word. And the last one, it's too cold in here. So obviously it should be it's too T-O-O, cold in here. So T-O-O. There is used for when you have more than you need of something. So it's too hot, too cold, it's too difficult, it's too easy, etc. Okay, good. So all I'm going to give you now is just very quickly, just a list of common mistakes or words that are often confused. I'm just going to talk through what the difference is, and then I will want you to pause the video, and in your own time I will want you to write 2 sentences that show the difference between those 2 words. Okay, so here we've got principle and principle. So the first one, your principle, means like your idea or your belief. So you can say that someone has very strong principles. And the second one, principle, is like another word for head teacher, often used in American English, but sometimes used in colleges to talk about the college principal. Okay, so that's the difference. So one is a belief, one is like a person, head teacher. Okay, the second one is affect and effect. So we talked about that before. Okay, so affect is the verb, so you are affected by something, and then the effect of the storm, so the consequence, basically. Okay, practice and practice. So again, this one is the same as above. So with a practice with the S, it's the verb form. Practice with the C is the noun form. So you could say, I practiced my spelling last night. And then with an S, and then I went to football practice. I go to football practice at the weekend. Okay. to and to, like we said, so to, you go to somewhere, or to play, or to drink, etc. And too, like we said, means more than you want, more than you need. Your and your, so obviously the first one is like your car, your house, your phone, etc. And you are, you're happy today, you're lovely. Okay, there. Okay, so again, very common mistake. So the first one, when you're talking about me like location of something, it's over there. There you go. THERE. Second one, THEIR. Something that belongs to them. So their house was burgled last night. Their car was stolen last night. Always happy things happen to that family. And they are, for the last one, apostrophe RE. So they're not going to the class today. They are not going to class today. Okay. Weather and weather, like we talked about before. So weather, the first one, that's an if. I don't know whether to go. It's whether he goes or not. It's if he goes or not. And then weather, as in, like I said, hot, cold, rain, sunshine, etc. And the last one, stationary and stationary, E or A. So with an E is to do with like pens and paper and office supplies, and the next one with the A is not moving. He is stationary. Okay, good. So, like I said, pause the video now, and I want you to write a sentence for each of those, showing that you understand the difference between them. Okay, because like I said, these are some of the common mistakes. So again, if you can avoid this in your writing exam and also in your everyday writing life, just makes writing more effective. Okay, the other thing about this one is that it won't get picked up by error correction. Okay, so you know if you're writing on a Word document or a text, if the wrong spelling comes up, it tells you what it should be. These ones, because you're spelling them correctly, hopefully, it won't recognise that it's a mistake. Okay, so that's why it's important to understand the difference here. Okay, so pause the video and then write a sentence for each of those pairs of words. Okay, good. Right, so like I said, so we're still going to look at writing today. So quick recap, paper 2 writing, about an hour, 2 tasks, 20 marks each. Like we said before, it's transactional writing, it's writing for a purpose. Okay, so the main ones you will get are these 4 here. So we looked at a letter and an article last week. Today, gosh, we're kind of running out of time a little bit in terms of preparing for the exam. We're going to look at both a report and looking at a speech. Okay, so quite a lot to get through. Okay, and remember, like we said, how to get a good mark. So it's all about making the writing real and realistic, having a clear opinion, clear point of view, clear sense of the audience who you're writing for, development of your ideas, organised, okay, like we talk about, 5-point paragraph plan, real places, real anecdotes, real examples, if possible, okay, and then obviously, as we've just done, accuracy of your written English. So, again, speeches, top 10 tips, ideas of how to improve it. Okay, so obviously, speech, quite popular where the exam board comes up quite a lot. So you need an engaging opening. Okay, so you need to be able to kind of make it recognisable as a speech. So asking direct questions, rhetorical questions to the audience. Okay, so again, like others, you still need to use connectives to make the links clear. Okay, so one thing sometimes people, it's a speech, doesn't matter about grammar or accuracy. Not true at all. Okay, so you still need to write it as a piece of kind of clear, accurate English. Okay, so again, like we said, using clear paragraphs, not just one big block. Okay, so might be appropriate to kind of consider and then defeat counter arguments to help your ideas more persuasive. Okay, so remember to greet and say goodbye to your audience. So again, so in terms of format for a speech, there's nothing that specific you have to do. It's not an article with headings, etc. It's not a formal letter with addresses, etc. So the only way you need to show that you're writing a speech is just to kind of put in a greeting and a farewell, a goodbye to your audience. Okay, so we'll look at an example in a bit. That's really important. Okay, so, again, often the speech is going to be persuasive, so maybe using facts and statistics to support it. Again, some of these tips are very similar to the other, like an article, quite a lot of crossover between the two. Okay, so again, it's about using different techniques to include your audience. Okay, so obviously, speeches are generally more informal, so I use contractions. Again, certainly for a speech, I think it's important to link your opening and ending. Often you might have posed a question, asked a question in the opening, so link that together. And again, because it's a speech, short, punchy sentences, use of dramatic type language to attract your audience. Okay, good. So what we're going to look at is a model speech. So this is the title. You have to give a talk to your class with the title CCTV in schools. What do you think? Okay. So very quickly, pause the video. Talking about this again. What do you think is the path for this one? So pause the video and come back in a couple of minutes. Unpause it once you've finished. Okay. So purpose is about giving your opinion. So speech will often be, like I was saying, some sort of either persuasive speech, getting someone to agree with your idea, or giving your opinion on here, having CCTV, so closed circuit television in schools and colleges. Audience is your classmates. Format, so it's a speech, it's a talk. Tone, semi-formal. So it's quite a serious subject, this one, but obviously it's an informal audience, and also it's quite an informal format as well. Okay, so this should also be on your pack. Nope, that's the report. We'll look at that one in a little bit. Apologies. Here we go. Okay, so what I want you to do is, if you can find this model speech, again, like I said, you should have a copy of this somewhere. All I want you to do, I'll make it, if you can't, oh, that's too small. Okay, so I want you to pause the video. I want you to look through this speech, okay? And I want you to kind of just find as many of those techniques as you can. Okay, so on the previous slide of the PowerPoint, so how is this an effective speech? So pause the video, take 10-15 minutes, okay, and then we'll compare answers. Okay, so welcome back. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to bring over the two ideas. Okay, so you've got the tips there. Okay, and then you've got this speech on the left-hand side. Okay, so it's a little bit small, but hopefully you can see that. Okay, okay, so just going to talk through. Okay, so tip 1, show you how engaging opening. So I'd like to begin by asking you a question. How would you feel if you came to school tomorrow and discovered that CCTV cameras have been installed all over the school? Okay, so direct question, rhetorical question, effective because it gets the reader thinking, oh, what would I think? Okay, so they would start imagine, I'm sure you already have. Obviously in the college we do have some CCTV cameras, but they're not in the classrooms, so that's the idea, maybe in there thinking about that. Okay, so again, you're probably sitting there looking, that'll never happen, and it goes on to explain that. Okay, next one, use connectors to make links between your sections clear. So, before we all start shouting about our rights, I have to admit I understand some of the reasons why teachers might want to have CCTV. So, before we start shouting, firstly, I know that sometimes, and then if you look down, second paragraph, in addition, on the other hand. Okay, so again, got those connectives, link it between the sections. 4 or 5 clear paragraphs, yeah, easily you can see there, yeah, clearly separated out. Consider and then defeat counter arguments. Okay, so this one, if you read it all the way through, you can see that he's kind of on the fence for this one. You can kind of see both points of view. Okay, so as I said last week, I think it's fine to do that. if you can keep your arguments nuanced and balanced. And I think he very the writer here very much does that. So it gives two persuasive arguments as to why it's a good idea, and then on the other hand, this issue of our privacy. Okay, so he's considering why maybe it's not a bad idea. So etc. etc. So it's good to have that. Okay. Remember to greet and say goodbye to your audience. So it doesn't say good morning. It does say I'd like to begin by asking you a question, and then he finishes by saying what do you think. Okay, so possibly that could be a way to improve it. Say thank you for listening at the end. But I think by having those questions, it has that type of opening and closing in it. Facts and statistics. Yep, so he's got that. So at the moment, recently found out 200 schools across England have already put CCTV cameras in their corridors, playgrounds. Okay. Use contractions. Okay, so hasn't got that here. But I'd like to begin. Okay, so I don't know who. So a couple of examples there. Then your opening and ending. Okay, so I'd like to begin by asking you a question. How would you feel? So finishes. So while I can see the reasons for CCTV, have to include their more important things. What do you think? Okay, so how would you feel? So he kind of gives his reasons and then does link it there together. Short, punchy sentences. That'll never happen. Listen carefully. We are just kids. Okay. In addition, or maybe not so many short, punchy sentences, but has lots of different ideas. And also, if we go back to the top tips, just in general. So make the writing real. So he's got a clear opinion on the topic. I think you could maybe argue he's maybe a bit too balanced, but it's very clear. He gives good examples of each one. There's a sense of the audience. How would you feel if you came to school? Direct address. Uses a lot of direct address here to kind of get the audience involved, get them thinking about it. I personally think this is the most persuasive reason. So a very clear sense of opinion, got the sense of audience, development of ideas. Firstly, in addition, on the other hand, so it's clear points of view. It's got specific, real places. So you've got the example here. I remember when I was in year 7, so real anecdote, I felt really nervous about going, didn't know who would be there. I did hear one of the worst things that happened to me. Yeah. So, you've got those real examples, real experiences, and I think, that's why it works. Obviously, I think, things it could be improved about, but, I think, again, as you can see, using these real examples makes the writing a lot more effective, a lot more realistic. Okay, good. So, like I said, that's an example of a model speech. Like I said, speeches come up quite a lot in the exam. So we're going to look at reports now. Okay, and then at the end, I'll give you a chance which one you'd like to do, or you could do both. Okay, so reports. So a report, first of all, quick definition of what a report is. So a report is like a formal document written to in kind of response to a need. Okay, so it's about analysing a situation and giving kind of your opinion, your recommendations about something, how to improve a situation. So the key difference between a report and an article is both the level of formality. The report is much more formal, it's much more structured, but also it's about analysing problem and giving solutions, recommendations. So if you write a report but you don't have solutions, recommendations, it doesn't work. Okay, don't know what happened there. Okay, so report needs to have a clear title at the top, what the report is. Clear introduction, gives the reason for the report. Okay, key features of the topic and the action that has been taken. Okay, so you have to kind of follow a problem-solution structure. Okay, so this is the problem, this is our solution. And then I said 3 or 4 ideas there, probably 3 ideas maximum. Okay, You need to have subheadings to signpost your section's points, so it has to be very clearly organised, and you have to close the report with your recommended actions, maybe in terms of priority. Language has to be formal and clear at all times, so no slang, no colloquial language, no shortened forms, and again, use of connectors to structure your paragraphs. Okay, so we're going to look at an example. So same activity again, this time looking at a model report. Okay, so got that report here. So I'm going to show you where the report is. Hopefully you have got a copy as well. Same situation. Just bear with me whilst I get rid of the speech. Here we go. Okay, so it's quite a bit longer, this one. It's probably a little bit too long. Okay, so I just want you to read through your copy of this one, and I want you to think which of those 7 techniques can you identify the different tips, the different structure of it, to see why it's an effective report. Okay, so again, pause the video for 10-15 minutes, work your way through, and then we'll come back and look at it together. Okay, so do the same activity as I did before. Okay, so we'll look at them side by side. Hopefully that's okay. Okay, so again, I'll just talk through. So clear title at the top. Yep. So report about how waste could be reduced in our school. Okay, so it's not the most exciting title, but like I said, it's not supposed to be. So don't use alliteration, don't use rule of 3, don't use exclamation marks. It's a clear formal report. So background, introduction, yeah, reason for the report. So it talks about amount of waste. Okay, it talks about what are the key features of the topic, and how it can be what action needs to be taken. Okay, so very clear. You read that, you know what's going to come in it. Okay, so relevant details, so problem solution. So you've got issue 1, food waste, recommendation 1. Okay, so there are different ways of organising this. So this is issue 1, recommendation 1, issue 2, recommendation 2. So you can do it that way, or you could do 3 main issues and then 3 recommendations underneath. Doesn't matter. I think this works quite well because it's very straightforward. It's very easy to follow. Okay, so again, you've got the subheadings. So you've got your issue 1, food waste, recommendation 1. Okay, and so on and so on. Okay, so and then if we look at the issue, okay, just to see how it's described. So it gives a very clear kind of definition, description of what the problem is. In terms of how much waste is produced, they dislike it, they throw it away, and then the recommendation of how to reduce the food waste. Okay, so basically saying better choice of food, more successful menu will reduce the amount of food that is thrown away. Okay, so it's not the most mind-blowing recommendation, but it kind of meets the purpose. And again, so the energy. Okay, so energy is used every day. So again, it's kind of it's not an issue as such, but it's saying how much the school spends maybe on money, how much money it spends on electricity, etc. And then solution is very clear. Not only the use of solar panel, solar energy, but also examples how else electricity could be saved. So lighting's turned off, and then also talks about wind power as well. Okay, and then the third one. So got litter, and then recommendation of so just again description of what the problem is: too much littering, too much mess, and then also talking about how else to address the problem. So recycling bins, maybe some training of students, etc. Okay, so conclusion, clear report, recommended actions. So three main ideas of what can be done to reduce the problem. So I think that's clear, and like I said, he's put through the recommendations already throughout the text, throughout the report, so that's quite clear and easy to follow. Language is formal, clear at all times. Okay, so significantly reduced should also be introduced. So I haven't talked about this a lot. The list format is called the passive form. So the passive form is when you move the object of the sentence into the subject. So here, recycling bins should also be introduced. Not a normal sentence, an active sentence, say the school should introduce recycling bins. Passive language is used in reports because it focuses on the action that needs to be taken. So if you can maybe try and get into the habit of using the passive form in this one, excuse me, it will help make your writing more formal for reports. Wouldn't be appropriate in all circumstances, but in a report certainly it is effective. And some connectives for this reason, namely, to kind of summarise, therefore, to avert, I would. Okay, so it's kind of after, so although it doesn't use the firstly, secondly, thirdly, because to be honest, you've already got the issue 1, issue 2, it would be overkill to put that as well. He does have things like after, to avert, I would, so it links it together that way. Okay, so like I said, so report is quite specialised. It's probably the task which has the most formalised structure. So you do need to make sure that you use your headings. You've got your background, introduction. You've broken it down into subheadings. Make your recommendations, and you've got your conclusion clearly labelled. Okay. So to finish with them, I'm going to give you the task. Okay. So again, so what we're going to look at is going to get you to write a report. Okay. So again, just excuse me. So organisation of the ideas in the report. So introduction, background. Why is it an important subject? What is the aim of the report? Okay. So why is it an issue? What are you going to achieve with it? One main idea theme per the main paragraphs and a recommendation for each issue, as we've seen. Then a conclusion, recap of main findings, main recommendations. Okay, so again, it's using that 5-point paragraph plan, but using it in a slightly different way. So the exam question is, write a report for your college giving recommendations on how to improve the catering facilities in the college. Okay, so what I want you to do now is this is the end of the video. So what you need to do is when you're organising ideas for the report, obviously you need to brainstorm. Why is it an important subject? What are the issues about the catering facilities? So 3 main problems and then 3 main solutions. Okay, so as I said before, if you don't have the solutions, your report doesn't work effectively. Okay, so stop it here. So you've got 30 minutes. Try and make it a timed piece of writing. The more practice you get at writing to a deadline, the better your writing will be when it comes to the exam. Okay, so good luck with that one, and thanks very much for listening to this video.